So, what are we going to talk about today? Here's where the fun comes. I want to hear some recommendations of things, questions you've always had but can never get answered about any way, shape, or form of technology. This is called Tech Tea Time. I want to let you know why it's called Tech Tea Time, because right now is when most of the crew members on the ship take their naps. That's the truth. It's tea time at 3, and then most of the senior officers are napping. I'm probably the highest ranking person that's awake right now on the whole ship. That's just because everybody naps until 5 when everyone's back on board, and then everyone's got to do paperwork and everything like that. Today was my port manning day, which means I was on board all day, so I slept in and I don't need nap time. I went and had lunch with this gentleman upstairs, and then I went to the gym, and I came here. So what I want some recommendations of stuff for us to talk about. You don't even know exactly what's going on now. I brought some stuff, but I want some recommendations. This is the one time we get to throw stuff out. Yeah?
Phone storage.
Phone storage. Okay, so storage. Cool.
The cloud.
The cloud. Okay, the only reason I'm going to ignore a recommendation is if I already have planned out to have a long discussion about that in another class called The Cloud later in the cruise. That's why I'm not going to go to there, but we'll touch on it a little bit.
Okay, then how do I get somebody to get me on the computer?
Okay, we'll talk about the cloud. We'll talk about the cloud a bit.
Range cloud's fine.
Yeah.
Desktop computers.
Desktop computers. Where are those going? Great idea.
Exactly.
Range extender.
Range extender? I brought something a little different than a range extender. I'll talk about this guy, which I've never talked about, this thing. It's not a range extender. I'm just going to write range extender. I can't write the word extender.
Can you spell it?
I can't spell it, yeah.
E-X-T-E-N-D.
No, I can spell it. I was just being weird. Okay, anything else? I'm trying to fill up 45 minutes here, yeah.
Apple Pro Desktop.
Yep.
I was curious what happened to Apple's one-to-one training.
Very good question, and I will tell you, I was the first one-to-one trainer in the world. I created the one-to-one training program 11 years ago, and it was called ProCare. I'll go for that. 1, 2, 1. Yeah. Anything else? I'm just trying to load up what we're going to talk about.
Mesh technology.
Mesh technology. So I'm going to table mesh with routers because here's the cool thing. I actually have a mesh system. I'm going to show St. Martin night, which is called Google Wi-Fi, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to write it on the list, but I don't have it with me today. I'm going to bring it with me St. Martin night to a class we're having in the iLounge. Yep. Google Pixel is in my hands right here. That's going to be a St. Martin night thing as well, but I don't mind having a quick chat about it now, but I have a whole thing planned out for those things on St. Martin night. Yeah?
The least expensive and safest ways Canadians can use their cell phones in.
The least expensive ways Canadians, so using
All of it.
Move to the US.
phone service while roaming.
Right.
Yeah, that's safe for everyone. Yep. I got room for about 3 more things, and then we're going to get started.
The
Yeah.
time capsule.
Time capsule.
The Apple.
Table that, to be completely honest, because between me, you, and the lamppost, finished. There probably won't be another time capsule.
All the money they spend is no good.
Well, it's going to continue doing what it's doing, but I don't think there's going to be further development on there. But here's the thing. What are you mainly backing up in your time capsule is documents, pictures, videos. Am I correct in
Basically, yeah.
all that? Google Drive and Google Photos. We're going to get to that. We'll talk about Google Drive today. I want to talk about Google Drive. Google Photos has its own class. So I'm going to write down Google Drive.
Apple backup.
Oh,
What do
God.
you have to back up?
Apple Backup.
Anything?
We'll talk about that. 2 more, and then we're going to get started. Yeah.
Google, Microsoft. Who's going to come out on top?
Google, Microsoft. Okay, let's do Battle Royale. Google, Microsoft, Apple. We'll end with that one. Facebook, and others. Who is on top? I can go over that for a while. I'm going to take 2 more, and then I'm going to get started. Yep, in the back.
How can you get rid of the record of places you've searched on the web?
How can you get rid of all the dirty things you've searched on the internet? Yes.
Advertisements the next time I go on to something totally different.
Yep.
Something
I-N-T-E-R-N-E-T. And I'm just going to put here, so I know, wedding ring. You'll know why. And 1 more, and then we're going to get started.
I just wanted your opinion on the new Apple Pro.
Mac Pro, that's something that we will take offline. I'll be happy to give that to you offline, but I don't think that will relate to many people in this room. So I've got a good baseline of what we're going to talk about today. I brought some other stuff as well, but the first thing that I got asked, and what we're going to start with, is storage. Now here's the question. How many of you know how much, now this will work on iPhones and iPads and Androids and all of those other ones like that. Storage. much storage you have on your device. When you bought it, you probably bought a 16 gig or 32 gig or 64 gig or 128 gig or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But let me ask another question. This is something I ask in the cloud class later on. Do any of you know how fast the processor is on your device? How much RAM it has on it or anything like that?
Yeah, 1 gig.
It doesn't have 1 gig. It actually has a lot more RAM than that. You got 2 gigs and a plus. But
Oh,
that's,
yeah,
that's a nerdy thing. So we're going to talk about storage because that's the only thing that really matters when you go buying an iPhone now is the size of the device and the storage of the device. So this is iPhones, Androids. If you go into the settings and you go settings, in Android you just go settings, then you go storage. But in the iPhone you go settings, general, and then for the Americans there'll be something that says about. For the Canadians it'll say about. And we can go
It's all
in.
the same.
And they don't use the word storage, they use the word capacity. Now the first thing about storage, I'm going to tell you about storage is a lie. What do I mean by that? If you bought a 32 gig device, you have 26 gigs, or 28 gigs, or something like that. If you bought a 16 gig device, you have 12 gigs. You bought those are numbers I'm giving you around. If you bought a 64 gig device, you got 56 gigs. If you bought a 128 gig device, you got whatever gigs. Here's the best word of advice I'm going to give you. Always buy more than you think you'll need. As weird as that sounds, that's my recommendation. So I will tell you, last year I bought the iPhone 6 Plus and I got so excited because I could finally get a 128 gig phone. And this year they came out with a 256 gig phone. Now when I got the 128 gig phone, I said there's no way I'm ever going to fill that 128 gig phone. And guess what?
You did.
I filled it. Then I got the 256 gig phone, and I said there's no way I'm ever going to fill that 256 gig phone. And what you will see is I am essentially at the halfway point right now. I have 248 gigs that are storage capacity, and I have 123 gigs available. Here's the thing you need to worry about in storage. Your device will start to slow down if you have less than 2 gigs free. When we're looking at that storage in settings general about, does anybody see something that says MB?
Oh, yeah.
She's out.
So 1000 MB is a GB. So your minimum MBs you want is 2000 MBs, which would be 2
Well, that's why you're gonna tell me how to
GBs.
do the
Okay,
Google Photos
yeah, we're going to talk about the Google Photos. But
What do you have there?
what do I have there?
Yeah,
That's
all
a
your
good
pictures
question.
are gone.
That's a good question. What do I have there? So let's go
Videos.
somewhere different. Let's go somewhere a little different than here. So this shows us what we have available, but I think the question she had is, well, what's taking up all that space? How do we know what's taking up all that space? Now, it is very easy to find this on an iPhone or an iPad, a little bit more difficult on an Android phone, but if I go into settings and I scroll down, you'll see something that says storage and iCloud usage. So settings, general, scroll down a bit, and you should see storage and iCloud usage. And there's a button that says, under normal storage, not iCloud, there's a button that says manage storage. And this is going to tell me where all my storage is gone. Now I'm going to show you where all my storage is gone. It's still calculating. So I have on my phone 30 gigs of photos. Now that's because I feel no need to clear the photos. Can I clear them with Google Photos? Yes. Do I clear them with Google Photos? No, because I got the space, so why not? So I can go in and I have 30 gigs of stuff in photos. I have 23 gigs of podcast.
Wow.
Just different things I like to listen to. I have 14 gigs of videos inside my VLC TV shows I'm watching and things like that. I have 3 gigs in Snapchat. But you'll notice that these top 3 things take up over half of my used storage. So if you look, probably the number one thing for most of you is photos and camera. Am I correct in that assumption? Maybe music? Does anybody have anything other than photos and camera?
Music.
What you got, music? Yeah. Okay. So it's generally either photos and camera or music, and we'll see photos and camera right there. Now, the best way to clear that up, we're going to talk about an application later on in the cruise called Google Photos. It has its own class, it has its own mindset. I'm just going to show you something really quickly if it wants to behave. All I have to do is open the Google Photos app. You don't need to follow right now. And I can hit free up space. It's too soon to free up space because it hasn't analyzed the pictures that I've uploaded yet. But I have on my phone a couple thousand pictures, and I can actually go in and I can clean up those couple thousand pictures directly from my device. And we're going to go into that, don't worry, we're going to go into that in depth. St. Kitts Day for all of us, and for the ones in the VIP, we're going to look at it tomorrow at 3:30. Yeah?
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah?
Under iCloud, mine says iCloud storage details are currently unavailable.
Correct. So to get your iCloud storage details, you need to be online. You need to be able to, it needs to be able to reach the iCloud. Now, when we're talking about iCloud storage, let's talk about iCloud storage for 30 seconds real quick. Thing is, all of us in this room get for free 5 gigs of iCloud storage. Should you be paying for more iCloud storage?
No.
No, no, no.
My favorite. It's the no button.
For the last time, no.
You shouldn't be paying for more than 5 gigs of iCloud storage. The reason you're paying, we're kind of going into your iCloud question, the reason you're paying for iCloud storage is because you're backing up all of your pictures and your videos from your camera roll to iCloud. Now I'm going to just show you really briefly. If I go into the iCloud settings, you can follow along with this in the system preferences, and I go to photos, there'll be something called iCloud Photo Library. When you opened up your, let's go to settings,
Okay.
iCloud,
Yes.
Photos, and then iCloud Photo Library. That is something you don't want to see. What happens is when iOS 8 came out, if you clicked on this button for the first time, which is the Photos app, it would say, do you want to put everything in the iCloud Photo Library? And there was a big button that said use iCloud Photo Library, and there was a tiny little blue button in the upper right hand corner that said skip. What did we all hit?
Yes.
No, we all hit use.
Yeah.
We all hit use, and that's how we filled up our iCloud storage. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you a bit later in the cruise how to use Google Photos, and once you are at home and all of your things are uploaded to Google Photos, you can turn off the iCloud Photo Library.
Not now.
Not now.
Okay. Because we're not on the internet.
Well, not because you're not on the internet, but because your stuff's not backed up anywhere else.
Okay.
Your stuff's backed up to iCloud and stuff, and then you can click on storage right here. I'll show you this. I'm kind of going into his question as well. I'm in iCloud. So I'm in iCloud, and then storage. You do need to be online to do this, but I'll show you. I can hit buy more storage, and there's a button that says downgrade. And that will downgrade you to the free storage tier, which is 5 gigs. So it's going in.
You went to storage?
I'm going into iCloud,
Okay. Then you went to
storage,
Okay.
buy more storage. I know that seems very counterintuitive to get less storage. And then down on the bottom, for those of you that are paying right now, it will say downgrade free 5 gigs. And you say downgrade,
Change storage.
change storage plan. Same thing, yeah.
Mine says too.
Okay.
Are you Canadian?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I was being polite to you.
Change storage plan. You
But
only
yeah.
have one device on there.
What's up?
You only have one device backed up in there.
I don't back up my devices to iCloud. I don't believe in backing my devices to iCloud, but that's a later question. So here's the thing. Do we all understand where our storage lies? We understand where it is. We understand what we have. Yes, question in the corner.
We're gonna go over that tomorrow.
What about using memory stick like Leaf?
What about using things like the Leaf, like the wireless flash drive? We will get to that. I didn't bring it with me today, but we will get to that. See, what we're doing is right now, as weird as it sounds, we're kind of helping me build the rest of this cruise, so it's okay. We're going through the first half. We have the wireless flash drive. We're going to get to that. Let me look at the next thing on the list. Oh, the cloud. Okay. So we're going to touch on the cloud. I got a whole class called What is the Cloud? But I think here's a good question he had in the back, which was desktop computers. How many of you still have a desktop computer? How many of you will go out and buy another desktop computer in the future other than this guy? Why? I'm asking an honest question. Why?
Edit movies.
Edit movies. Okay, you're exceptions to the rule. The rest of us, why would we buy a desktop computer? Business. Okay. Speed. What are you doing that requires the speed? I guess that's a loaded question. Illegal movies? What? Copy movies? What? We're still in port. We can't talk about that till after 5. After 5, don't worry, we're on a ship. Everybody asked, if you're a crew member and on a ship and you drink before noon, does that make you an alcoholic? I go, no, that makes you a pirate. So here's the thing. Some of us need desktops for very specific reasons, but here's the very important thing. A lot of laptops have become almost as powerful as desktops.
Yeah, but not as convenient.
Well, it
Because you have
depends.
to either keep it plugged
More
in or not.
convenient.
Well,
Keep unplugging
you know,
it or-
Vince, you asked a good question, and it's interesting that I brought this with me today. Because I was not planning on bringing this with me, but I brought this with me just for fun. So what's going to happen is, in the very near future, desktop, laptops, all of them, you know how now you have network ports, and you have USB ports, and you have HDMI ports, and you have all those ports like that. Guess
Thunderbolt.
what? It's all going away. Now you might say, huh? Huh? Here's the cool thing. Imagine if I told you that you could take this one cable, plug it into your laptop, and turn it into a desktop. So that's what this guy is right here. This is actually very, very cool, very, very interesting, and I just so happen to have it in the bottom of my bag, so I brought it. I did not know he was going to ask this question. So what my personal feeling is, laptops nowadays, when they are plugged in, are generally quite as fast as desktops. Now, one of the things you kept asking me about was the Mac Pro, the Mac Pro, the Mac Pro. This MacBook Pro, the Mac Pro hasn't been updated in 2.5 years, that MacBook Pro has higher clock speeds than the entry-level Mac Pro when it's plugged in. So the big thing is, as long as you have a laptop plugged in, it can essentially act as a desktop. And one of the coolest things is something called Thunderbolt, or it's also called USB Type-C. And I can take this one cable, plug it into my laptop here. It will not only charge my laptop, but it'll give me an SD card slot, a headphone jack, a USB port, 3 more USB ports, an Ethernet port, and an HDMI port with one cable.
Do you need electricity?
You need to well, you know, if you want to charge it, so the exact name of this is not important. What it's called is called a Thunderbolt 3 dock. That's what they're called.
How much?
They're coming down. No, it's about $200. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, but here's the interesting thing. How many of you own both a desktop and a laptop? Okay. So you can get one of these and a monitor at Costco. We all know what Costco is, right? You can get one of these and a monitor at Costco for far less than a desktop and a laptop combined would cost. And you can bring your desktop with you. So here's the weird thing. What's really happened is desktops have sort of replaced laptops. You'll see, no, my mistake. Other way, laptops have sort of replaced desktops, because if we have a laptop, we leave it on our counter, and it's there. One of the things we're going to talk about in the Google Photos class is I'm going to ask how many of you have a desktop computer. I'll get you in 3 seconds. I want to finish this thought. I asked how many of you have a desktop computer, and a couple of people raised their hand, but here's the real logic. A laptop plugged into a screen is more efficient than a desktop, because you always have that information with you. You don't have to worry about the cloud and stuff like that. Red shirt in the back.
Why not, like, right now I got a docking station.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of trouble because it's a Microsoft.
Of course.
And I've got a Surface Pro. But is that gonna work any better?
So here's the answer.
I gotta run 3 screens.
You've got a very good question. So here's the fun thing. Thunderbolt 3 is an open standard. So this cable I bought on Amazon. I can charge my Google Pixel phone and my MacBook Pro and my MacBook from the same cable. They're a completely open standard. So what that is when you have your Microsoft one, I've had the Microsoft Surface as well, you have one choice in docking stations. It's the one that Microsoft makes to make with that device, which is not very good. When you have an open standard, the marketplace decides. Right now in Thunderbolt docks, there's about 8 different choices. Personally, this is my favorite one. The only problem is I ordered it when I had a gold MacBook, and now I have a black MacBook, so it doesn't match my Mac. But here's the interesting concept. I want to take this a little bit further. So laptops are replacing desktops, but here's a question. I'll get to you as soon as this thought's done. What is replacing laptops? iPads. The pads. And what's taking the place that the pads used to take? Take everyone with you like the pads?
Phone.
The phones. So what's going to replace the phones?
Magic
Yeah,
watch.
Watch. The watch is going to replace the phones. Now I have 2 phones. You laugh. You say that. But here's the thing. I got a question for you. You very rarely during the day pull your phone out of your pocket. You just flip your watch and you see what's going on, and then you flip it back. Correct? Yeah, sometimes. Well, it depends. I very rarely grab my phone during the pocket. So the nice thing is, if I'm out on a date with a lady, all I have to do when I get a text message from another lady is check. It's pretend like I'm checking the time. It's kind of rude. I'm kidding. It's a joke. In the red.
I do have a question. I do have an iMac. They are done, or is
No, they're not done. I think here's the way to put it. So this is a MacBook Pro, and this is pretty much just as capable as the latest iMac. And what they're doing is they're updating the desktops with a lot less frequency, getting back to both of your questions, because the majority, you've got to realize that 80% of Apple's business, 80% of Apple's business is the iPhone.
So that's what they're gonna.
10% of Apple's business is computers. Out of that 10%, 2% is desktop computers, 8% is laptop computers. So they're going to focus their energy on a laptop computer. But you can take a laptop computer and you can plug it into a monitor and you've got something just as good as a desktop very, very easily. Yeah?
Do you think that Apple will go to touchscreen?
Okay, awesome question as a follow-up there. Do I think Apple will go to touchscreen? I don't think it's coming anytime soon. Will there be an emergence of the iPad and the laptop? Possibly. Here's the biggest problem. Any of you have Windows 10 on a touchscreen device? How many of you touch the screen very often?
All the time, probably.
Really?
I don't.
No, you don't. Because here's the thing.
That's right.
What happened was Windows tried to make Windows 10 optimized for mouse and for touch. And the problem is it's not 100% good for mouse and it's not 100% good for touch. So the closest step, without taking the screen off, I'm going to see if I can do this. The closest step that Apple's done, instead of putting a touch screen, what they've done on their new MacBook Pros is they've installed what's called a touch bar. And I can go in and I can change all of these things with a little bar right here. So there's actually a touch screen on top of my laptop. Because here's the thing, it's uncomfortable to reach up and touch the screen. You still have a wobbly screen, you're like that. So they put by the keyboard a touch bar. On the desktop side, I think that sooner rather than later, you're going to see Apple put out keyboards that have a screen on them that's a touch screen. Now what's very cool is that's running the same technology as the Apple Watch to make that touch bar work. So that's where the evolution's going. I'll take one more question and I'll move on to the next topic. Yeah?
The reason I still use a Mac desktop is I enter a lot of numerical data, so I still use a wired keyboard that's got the numeric keypad inside.
Yep.
So what do you have in your bag of tricks that will take care of that?
So actually, I'll tell you something very cool. So you're looking for a numb keypad. You're looking for a wireless one with a numb keypad. I have a great one. Take a look from Logitech. They make a keyboard that has the numb keypad. It's for Mac. And the coolest thing is you never have to charge it or replace the batteries because it's solar powered. It's got 2 big solar panels. It's like an oldie time calculator. So the answer is the Logitech solar powered keyboard for Mac. I have one at home. I love it, but I don't bring it on the ship because it's a little too big. The reason I had to actually dig a bunch of those wired keyboards because the iMacs up on Deck 6 when we got them, they had wireless keyboards and mice, and we left them there. And I got tired of checking the security camera and tracing who thought the mouse was a free thing they could take home. So that's why the answer, the Logitech's the way to go. One more on this topic, then we'll move to the next topic.
I want to tell him, you can buy a Logitech, just the new numbers.
Yeah, you can buy numpads alone.
My accountant doesn't use
What about
Yeah.
touchpads?
Scott and uses a keyboard on his laptop.
So and I'll give him one more. You can do that, and even crazier, you know the Magic Trackpad, the external trackpad? For the older Magic Trackpad, not for the newer one, but you can still find it online, they have something called the Magic Numpad that you can lay a little overlay over the trackpad, and it'll map it as numbers. There's a lot of stuff. But honestly, desktop computers for normal people are on their way out. Businesses are still going to buy them, but they're going to go to what's called thin clients. And what you're going to see is the thing that's going to replace desktop computers, to be other than for video editing and stuff like that, are going to be these technologies called Chrome boxes, which are little things like a Chromebook, but they run as a desktop and they just run on a little cheapy monitor, and they're really quite cool. Desktop computer, okay.
But hang on.
Yes.
What about theft?
What about
One
theft?
of the reasons I buy all desktops for my office staff is nobody's taking home a big box.
Nobody say, well, I mean, you got to trust your office staff. I guess that's
Well,
that's
the
the.
reason, but this is easy to put in my pocket.
I agree, and desktops will always exist, but I'm talking from a consumer perspective. You won't see, business perspective, I understand. For our houses, it's going to be very difficult to buy desktops anymore. The only companies that really make innovative, good desktops anymore are Dell and Lenovo, because they make them primarily for business. Microsoft has a great desktop. It's like $4,000. It's called the Surface Studio. I really want one, but no, I'm not going to buy one.
What about the little apples?
The little Apple Mac Minis, I have one of those as well. It makes a great home theater computer. But let's move on to the next subject. I don't mind revisiting any of these later on. Range extenders and things like that, and then we'll go to one-to-one. How many of you have problems getting Wi-Fi in your house? Yeah. What I mean by that is you have that dead spot in the house, and you have one router or anything like that. Range extenders are a waste of money. Any of these Linksys range extenders, how many of you have had one before? They're a waste of money a lot of the time.
Yep.
There's a magic answer. It's called mesh. M-E-S-H. And there's a lot of companies that do it right now, but if I asked you what company owns more of the internet per se than anybody else, what name would you say?
Google.
Google. So who do you think has the best mesh solution in my opinion?
Google.
Google. Google launched a mesh solution in November called Google Wi-Fi. I do not have them with me today, but I will have them I have one of them. I have two of them at home. But I will have it with me St. Martin night when we talk about OK Google. Can I say it? Yeah, I can say it. When we talk about OK Google, I try and not say that term because it does weird things on my phones. We're going to talk about the Pixel, we're going to talk about Google Wi-Fi and all those. But what it is, it's a little puck, and you put it next to where your internet comes in, and then you put another little puck somewhere else, and you put another little puck somewhere else in the house, and it will guide you how to do it, and it covers your whole house in perfect internet access.
No plug-in?
You plug in the first one to the network. The remaining ones you just plug into power, and they automatically jump off. It's called a mesh. It makes a giant mesh network. So that's what's really cool. But how many of you have kids or grandkids? I'm going to show this one. This is really, really awesome. This is called the Circle. And I played with this. I really like it. This is the only one I have, so I don't have it hooked up right now. But it's called the Circle, and it's made with partnership with Disney. And what you do is you put this in your house, and it automatically filters your internet. What I mean by filters your internet, you can say that when someone new joins, if they want to see adult content, they have to ask you. It'll show up as blocked. If they want to download games from the App Store, they need to ask you. It'll show up as blocked there. And what's really cool, so you plug this into your network, and it actually uses some stuff that the bad guys use. It uses what's called deep packet inspection to figure out what's going on. What I love is I took this out in port once, and I blocked everything for everyone on the public Wi-Fi network, except just to see how well it worked. We went out and we blocked, it did for like a half an hour, and everyone was like, why is the only thing we could access the Food Network? But what's cool, you just plug this in, and then you set it up, and there's an app on your phone, and you can control it to different age levels and different specific things and all kinds of things like that. Yeah?
Can it stop you from grandkids going to YouTube?
Yes, it is so granular. You can stop certain things, you can add certain things, so it has all the major websites stored inside of it. And the great thing is it has a battery in it, so even if the grandkids unplug it, it's still going to work. So it's still going to work. And the best thing is, in the app, you can pause the internet.
What makes it override the internet, though?
This is using some crazy stuff to do this. What it's doing is I'm going to talk very high level for about 4 or 5 seconds. It's using a man-in-the-middle attack to over-attack different websites on your network to try and force you to go there. I bought this. I was very, very, very skeptical when I bought it. The reason I bought it was just to play with it.
Good.
But it's called the Circle. I don't know why it's a square. It runs about $99. You can get it for $89. Sometimes they go on sale at Best Buy and Target and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool. Take a look at this. I can recommend this very wholeheartedly. And this is not for extending your network. This is for protecting it and keeping the kids to different places.
My daughter has it and it works like a charm.
Yeah, it's great. And it'll tell you when a new network, like if you wonder if your neighbors are stealing something, it'll tell you when something new joins your network and you can restrict it and everything like that. Hand up in the corner.
Yeah, back to the mesh. Quick
Yeah.
question. Do you use that with your router or
So,
to replace
awesome
your
question.
router?
How many of you send Wi-Fi out to your house on the thing that your cable provider gives you? Meaning you don't have a separate router. You use what your cable provider gives you. Here's the dirty secret, the modem. You use the modem to give out the internet. That's one of the worst things you can do because here's the thing. The modem does not have enough power coming to it to properly get your internet in and distribute your internet at the same time. So the answer to the question is, what you want to do is you turn off the Wi-Fi function of your modem, and you plug in the mesh. Now what the mesh is, it's a little circular thing. They're called Google Wi-Fi. I'm going to have them up in the iLounge St. Martin night. We can take a look at them that night, in a class called OK Google. I bring all the Google stuff, including the Pixel, all those things like that. Let me check what the next thing we're talking about is. One-to-one, eins und eins. Yeah, your question. Then we'll go to one-to-one.
Okay, we have the modem and a router.
Right.
So we just take the
So you get rid of the router, you put in a mesh network, you plug one of those meshes into your modem, and then the other ones you put elsewhere in the house, and they will test each other and make sure that they can make a mesh and reach each other, which is what's really cool. I couldn't see her behind the pole there. One-to-one. So I was the original, I created one-to-one many, many, many years ago. If you want to see one of the original one-to-one classes, tomorrow at 10:30, if you use a Mac, tomorrow morning at 10:30 in the iLounge, we're going to be doing a class called Mac to the Future. Now in the Apple Store, it was called Getting Started with Mac. So it was called Getting Started with Mac in the Apple Store, but the problem is, I expect you to know how to use a mouse to come to the Mac to the Future class. Because I can't teach you how to use a mouse. So what happened to one-to-one? So one-to-one used to be called ProCare, and it was designed for professionals. So it was designed for professionals. And also, I'll tell you another thing, because this is important to understand, the Genius Bar used to be when something was broken with your device. If you walk into an Apple Store and try and get a Genius Bar appointment, you have to wait about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because the Genius Bar has now become a place to be babysat and different things like that. Unfortunately, what happened is the Apple stores have gotten a little bit too crazy. And between me, you, and the lamppost, it's one of the reasons I actually left Apple, is because they got a little too crazy, and it got a little too... I was actually the Genius Bar manager for South Florida area. So I managed all the Genius Bars in the South Florida area. And what happened was the idea of one-to-one was actually really interesting. You pay, just so you know what it is, you pay $99 a year when you bought any Apple device, an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac, anything like that, and you could come in once a week, and you could get training for one training a week on whatever you wanted to know. And the Apple stores just became too crazy, unfortunately. Now they still do what they've transitioned to, and it's probably not in any Apple stores near you, but they're starting to remodel all the Apple stores across the country, now that they've removed one-to-one, and they're adding seminar rooms to the Apple stores across the country, and they're moving from one-to-one to small group seminars. So that's the way they're moving forward. If your Apple store doesn't have a seminar room yet, I would say within the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to have the Apple Store by you redesigned, and it's going to have a seminar room inside of it. All the ones in major cities, New York, LA, they all have big auditoriums and screens and stuff like that. It just became a bit too crazy. I will tell you, the honest truth is one-to-one was great. I loved one-to-one, and the thing is, I'm going to give you some numbers that were never officially put out. But for someone who would pay $99 for the one-to-one, over a year they would buy at least $1,000 in other Apple products as well. So it was a great, yeah, you know he did. It was a great investment in teaching and stuff like that, but the Apple stores have just grown. I'm going to give you one more secret about Apple stores. If you need to get something replaced, just call Apple Care. Let's say you break your phone screen, right? Let's say you break your phone screen. You call Apple Care. I'm sure everyone in this room has a credit card, correct? You all have a credit card. You call Apple Care, you say, I broke my phone screen, I have Apple Care, I know it's going to cost me $79 to get the screen fixed, and I know I can't get to the Apple Store for 3 weeks. You can call them, and they will do what's called an express replacement. This is how I do everything. They will send you a new phone. They will say a replacement phone. They'll put a hold on your credit card for the cost of the replacement phone, and you send the old phone back. You never have to go into a store. You never have to do anything. That's the truth. That's the way that I deal with it. My sister broke her Apple Watch. I'll show you. She did a beautiful job breaking her Apple Watch a couple days ago. Let me see. Where's Leslie?
All your stuff is on that phone you're sending in.
No, it's actually not, because they will make you... here's my sister's Apple Watch. Great job breaking it. When you call Apple, they will make you sign out of your iCloud account on the phone to verify that it's your phone. And let me be completely and brutally honest, Apple just wipes the phones as soon as they come in. They have a machine, an automated machine they plug it into, they wipe the phone before a human ever touches it, to be completely honest with you. Don't worry about your information. Apple cares about your information more than your healthcare provider, more than your bank, more than any of those other ones. Apple's probably one of the biggest companies in protecting your information. Red shirt in the back, my friend.
Most of the Apple stores, though, if you took that in,
Yeah?
I've always got, I drove over my iPad and they gave me a new one.
So here's the thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with going to an Apple store, but if you live in a city that you can't get an appointment with for 2 weeks, I live in Miami. If you live in Miami and you try and make an appointment in any Apple store in Miami, it will be 2 weeks before you can get a spot in the Genius Bar.
DC's even worse.
DC is even worse. Yes, if you go there at 9 o'clock in the morning when they open and you wait in line or you go in the standby line, but you got to realize some stores are absolutely crazy. Here's something you wouldn't realize. Do you know the #1 selling Apple store in the world? Everybody's going to get it wrong. Everyone guess?
Sarasota, Florida.
Peking,
What?
Peking.
Aventura, Florida. The Apple store in the Aventura Mall, because most people buy there in cash and export to South America. That was a store that I used to manage, and back in the day, it was the #1 selling Apple store in the world, and it still is.
Are they not that popular in Toronto? Because I can walk in.
They're not that. So here's the thing: you might live in a weird place, but for the rest of you, you know, if you try and make an appointment in the Genius Bar, what's it take? A week or two?
Forever.
For a lot of us, it depends where you live. You're fortunate, but I'm giving all the rest of them a little bit of advice. So the answer is 1-to-1. The stores became too busy for 1-to-1. They're going to bring back an equivalent, which is a small group training in most of the stores. They have it right now. They bring out a little TV and stuff like that on one of the tables, but you're going to see theaters be installed all over in Apple stores. Pretty much one. Where do you live?
Delaware.
Delaware. Okay, so they don't charge sales tax there. That's a busy store. Right? Delaware doesn't have sales tax, so everybody goes there to buy Apple products. They come from the surrounding areas, buy their $3,000 Mac Pros. So that's a set.
B&H Video out of New York.
B&H Photo out of New York as well. So you're going to start seeing in the. What's that? Felt like a camera flash or something. Yeah.
You
The
talk
screen
about
just turned.
extending on Wi-Fi.
No, they don't.
Is
I
there
mean,
anything
no,
like
if you
that
buy it
to
in New York,
extend,
they charge New York.
my telephone?
Okay, that's the next thing here. So let's talk about that.
Oh, right.
Let's talk about that. That's the next thing on the list. So it's a great segue.
What was the question?
Using phone. Okay, so he said, is there anything to extend my cell phone network? You talked about extending Wi-Fi. Is there anything to extend my cell phone network? And the next question is using cell phone service when roaming. Here's the best thing, and you have a question that's coming up in a few minutes. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, others, who's going to come out on top? And I don't mind answering that question, but I'm going to tell you who's going to fail before one of those companies comes out on top. Within 5 years, we will mark the death of Bell, Shaw, Telus, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile. Done. Within 5 years, they'll be finished.
Say it again?
All the cell phone companies will be gone within 5 years. It's got nothing to do with Trump. It's got nothing to do with Trump. So
You don't know that for sure.
here's
Come on
the,
now.
what? That it's got nothing to do with Trump? I know they're going to be gone. I don't know it's going to have nothing to do with Trump. But here's the thing. Using phone service while roaming, here's what I need you to do. If you are American, we're going to talk Americans for a minute, then we're going to get to Canadians. If you're American, what all of this, and this is answering your, are you from the States? Where are you from? From Canada? You're from the States?
Yes,
Who's your cell phone company?
AT&T.
AT&T. Okay. You have at least an iPhone 6?
No, 5.
You have an iPhone 5. Okay, you need to get an iPhone 6 or above to do what I'm about to tell you, to give you an idea. They built a technology into the iPhone 6 and above and the Samsung Galaxy S6 and above called Wi-Fi calling. And anywhere you have Wi-Fi, that will give you access to make phone calls. So you'll notice if I turn my phone sideways, my phone right now says T-Mobile Wi-Fi. And what's happening is, this is not using the T-Mobile network. There's no T-Mobile network here. Well, let's be completely honest, there's no T-Mobile network anywhere. But the way that T-Mobile actually made their network work really well was Wi-Fi calling. So there used to be things called femtocells, which you'd plug into your house and it would give you stronger cell phone service. But now everybody's just put in Wi-Fi calling. For AT&T, if you call AT&T when you get home, they will give you a microcell, which you plug into your home network. They'll give it to you. They won't charge anything. They'll give it to you for free. They'll give you a microcell because here's the thing. When you plug that into your Wi-Fi, you're using your network and you're taking the strain off of their backbone. So to answer the first part of your question, yes. Number one, Wi-Fi calling. Number two, they make gadgets you can plug into your home internet, and that will resend the Wi-Fi.
Microcell.
The microcell, yeah, they're called microcells.
Do we ask for a microcell?
Yeah, just call AT&T. It generally just works for AT&T. Sprint and the other ones use slightly different technology.
So what does it plug into?
It plugs into your internet router.
Into
It plugs into where you're getting internet from, and it recreates an AT&T network inside of your house. If you ever noticed, one of the places you get the best signal for your iPhone is inside of an Apple store, because they have microcells for all 4 carriers inside of the Apple store that are making their signal a lot stronger. So, but here's the question, while roaming. So for the Americans, if you have an iPhone 6s or above or a Samsung Galaxy S6 or above, you can do Wi-Fi calling, which just allows you to go ahead and go on your phone. And I can just go to the phone and I can dial exactly what I need to dial. My screen is a little bit behind me here. Let's see if I can fix that. But here's the best way to deal with it when you're roaming. The best thing to do is what? That's weird. The best thing to do is honestly to just start giving up on the phone provider completely. Because phone providers and roaming are an inherently broken system, and use something like, say, a Facebook Messenger, and you can make phone calls in there, send text messages in there, do those different things like that. But the real answer, if you want to call, it's called Google Hangouts, Hangouts, and this will work on an iPhone, on an iPad, on a computer, on anything like that. It's a free application. You can call anywhere you have internet of some sort, be it cellular, be it Wi-Fi, be it anything. You can call any number in the US and Canada for free with this app.
That's if you don't have Wi-Fi calling.
If you don't have Wi-Fi calling. If you have Wi-Fi calling, you don't really need it. The major downside of this one is it's going to give you an unknown number. You can fix that with something called Google Voice, which is a free service. It's called Google Voice. It's tied. I don't think I have Google Voice on my phone. If I do, I will show you. Because it's not really an application. No. You can call anywhere in the US and Canada for free as long as you have an internet connection of some sort. Does that make sense?
The other person doesn't have to have.
Nope, you're calling their real phone number. That's the difference. We're calling a real number.
And they don't have to have Google.
They don't need to have Google Hangouts.
There's Google Voice.
Yep. I don't have Google Voice installed here because I use Google Voice for my computer. It's much better on my computer side. But it's called Hangouts. It's free. You need a Google account. What you're going to notice for a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, for Gmail, for Google Photos, for a lot of that stuff, you need a Google account or a Gmail account. It's a good idea to have a Google account or Gmail account. Yeah.
I have Vonage on my phone.
You have Vonage.
Yes.
So,
it works very well.
It works okay. I'm not going to lie about that, but here's the thing. Those companies are going to go the way of Magic Jack. Who? Yeah, good question. Who? There was a company before Vonage called Magic Jack. Wi-Fi calling is going to kill Skype. Facebook Messenger is going to kill Skype. There is Vonage, these still exist. There is Ooma for your home telephone. You've got all of this technology out there. But here's the thing. Look up the financials of Vonage. They're losing money quarter after quarter. They're not making any money. So eventually, Vonage is going to go somewhere.
I had Vonage 20 years ago.
Yeah, you had Vonage 20, yeah. Make a long distance call.
Who's gonna make the business internet phone?
Who's going to make the business internet phone? Probably Google, to be honest with you.
They aren't there yet.
Google Voice is based on something called Grand Central, and you actually can get business phone through them, but that's a little nerdy, and we'll talk offline, no problem.
Okay.
We can have that discussion. Yeah.
So you said with Hangouts, if you use Google Voice, you can do the number. How do you get Google Voice?
You just go to the Google Voice website. It's going to ask you to choose a number in your area code. It's completely free. It's going to cost you nothing, but it's a process, and it's something I can't redo because I've already done it once. Does that make sense? That's the concept there.
Go to the website.
You go to Google Voice. Just Google Voice. Yeah. Google Voice.
Are they gonna give you, when you sign up, they will give you a random number?
No, so I'll give you a simple answer. So it's actually really cool. They're going to ask for your area code, and they'll actually ask if you want a certain word. So my Google Voice number is 239 big leet. Don't worry about that. That's a hacker term. So you can actually put in words that it'll search for and different stuff like that to give you an idea there. So Google Voice, you have to choose your number. They'll give you an option to choose from. You can choose inside any kind of area codes and different things like that. Like I needed a New York City number because I was doing some business in New York City, so I signed up for a New York City number. I need a Fort Myers number because I was doing it in there. So you can do it with a lot of stuff. It's really quite cool.
For your phone
So
and your computer?
for your phone and your computer, yeah. And this kind of replaces the cell service, which is what's interesting. So it replaces the cell service. Google Drive and Apple Backup. We'll put them together in one. We're going to have an entire class on St. Kitts at 4 o'clock on a revolutionary application that I love. It's my favorite app that's ever been made, called Google Photos. You're going to see it. You're going to be blown away. I've been telling, what's so funny is my boss on board, every time I go see him, he goes, now my boss on board doesn't deal with computers or anything like that. I'm the highest Apple person. But I go see my boss and he's like, Richard, every time you come here, you cost me money. He's like, you show me some gadget that I have to go buy, or I have to have you order it and your mom bring it to the ship from Amazon. I was like, yeah. So I'm like, my gift to you is Google Photos. It doesn't cost you any money or do anything, and it stores all of your pictures for free. And his next response was, well, what about my documents? Now, oh, that's me talking. That's a little weird. But I could go in and it's like, what about my documents? Now, have any of you ever heard of Dropbox before? So, I don't usually say this on video recording, but I used to work for a company called Dropbox. A long time ago, I worked for Dropbox. I was their product ambassador. So what I would do is I would sell their product to companies to replace the systems they already had and stuff like that. And I don't work for Dropbox anymore, but I personally use something called Google Drive, because Dropbox only gives you 5 gigs of storage. How many of you use Dropbox? It's like iCloud. They only give you 5 gigs of storage.
I got 20-something.
You got 20-something because you referred people and you referred people and you got, oh, trust me. I still have 500 gigs from when I used to work there. I won't use it. I use an application called Google Drive. Let me see if I have Google Drive. I have so many. So I use Google Drive, and what that does is that stores all of my documents across all of my, I don't even know what's in here, across all of my devices, and it works very similar to a Dropbox. So I saw it on my phone, I saw it on my tablet, I installed it on everything. I had a discussion with someone over lunch. I said, most of us in this room don't have more than 15 gigs of documents, do we? Documents, Word files, Excel files. We don't have more than 15 gigs of docs. Yeah, you might have more? Okay, well, you're a nerd, it's okay. But you don't have more than 15 gigs of documents. If you separate out the photos and videos from the documents, you're okay. And that good photos and videos will use Google Photos, and that'll use Google Drive. You can also use iCloud Drive if you wanted to do that, because you've got 5 gigs of space to do that. The most important thing is any service that has a limited storage, keep your photos and videos out. Does that make sense? Yes?
Security on Google.
Security on Google.
All that stuff in their cloud.
So I'm going to ask you something, okay? And this is another discussion I have with people. Which do you think has higher security, your bank or Google?
Google. Oh, Google.
And you keep a lot of money in your bank. I'll put it like this. Google has significantly higher security. If you are afraid of security, you can enable something called two-factor verification, where you need a password and you need to do something from another device. I can very openly tell you that my password for my Apple account is Apple Password 7 with a capital P in password. Do you know what good that will do all of you? Nothing. I can tell you all of my passwords, and it will do you no good, except for between 3 and 5 tomorrow. My Google password will do you good, because I have to turn off some security on my Google account to teach my Google Photos class in the iLounge, to give you an idea there. But the thing is, it is much more secure than what you're dealing with your banking institutions. I would not worry about that in any way, shape, or form. Now, between me, you, and the lamppost, there was a problem with Dropbox's security, and that's part of the reason I don't use Dropbox anymore. So Dropbox had a couple of holes that happened a couple times where you just put in an email address and hit enter, and you would get right to the person's Dropbox without putting in a password or anything. It was a big problem, and that's why I don't use Dropbox anymore. Yeah?
Can you put, like with Dropbox, you can send information amongst each other?
Oh, yeah.
So when can I have sub-files within Google?
Yes, you can make groups inside of Google Drive and everything like that. So here's the very funny thing, okay? Over 50% of Dropbox's team left Dropbox and went to Google and started up Google Drive. Because both Apple and Google tried to purchase Dropbox. So of the original guys, about half of them went to Apple and half of them went to...
So you can transfer anything confidential.
Anything confidential.
Just for you and me to read it, but
Yep.
everybody in here can
Yep, and you can lock it down, you can put passwords, you can do all those functions that were in Dropbox, and trust me, I know those functions. are inside. So we got two last things, but I want to talk about Apple Backup, and then we'll go to those two last things. Apple Backup. Something I never use is iCloud Backup. And there's a very, very important reason I never use it. So in the iCloud settings, there's something called iCloud Backup. I will not use that because that is not encrypted. So your iCloud Backup is not encrypted. Now, here's what's very important. Since it is not encrypted, it can be subpoenaed. Do you remember, I don't like bringing up negative things, but do you remember that thing that happened in California where they wanted Apple to unlock the iPhone and all the government and all the shooting? And okay. So what a lot of people don't know is the second the FBI requested it, Apple handed over the guy's entire iCloud backup. The problem they needed the phone is he ran out of iCloud storage space 3 months before. Now iCloud Backup has all of your text messages, all of your phone call records, all of your email records, everything. It is not encrypted and it is subpoenaable. So do you think I use iCloud Backup?
No.
That's
Can
the
you
right
erase
answer.
it if you have it there?
When you turn it off, it'll go ahead and it'll erase it.
Erase everything you already have.
Yep. When you turn it off, you go in, you just turn off iCloud Backup. That's why I don't use it. I know Vince asked that question. That's why I don't go ahead and use it. Plus, do you remember about 2 summers ago, there was the celebrities that had all their naked pictures stolen?
Yep.
I saw the pictures, they were nice. But the reason they had their pictures stolen is because, their iCloud account wasn't hacked. No one's iCloud account has ever been hacked. It has been socially engineered. Trust me, it is very simple to figure out the place where a celebrity's 2 parents met, what was the model of their first car, and what was the name of their favorite pet, and their birthday. So that's how they got in. That's how they got into all these celebrities' accounts with that information. Now, by default, if you put in a celebrity name, let's say you try and put in George Clooney, just for fun, if you go and make an Apple account, you put in George Clooney, it is going to force you to do 2-factor verification. So it has a database of celebrity names, and if you use those celebrity names, it's going to force you to use 2-factor verification. And how they do it, it's actually very interesting, is the Apple accounts are tied to, how many of you ever used Twitter before? I don't understand Twitter. But you'll notice that people on Twitter that are real people get the little check mark on it to show that they're verified Twitter people. So it'll go in. That's why I don't use the backup on my device. Now I have 2 things. I want to figure out the order. I want to talk about the last 2 in.
What do you use instead? Google Drive?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor and
Yeah.
just go back to see how you're set up compared to mine on the iCloud? Like
We got a whole iCloud class coming up later on the cruise, so I don't want to go back to that now. I want to talk about stuff finding you online, and then we're going to talk about who's going to wind up on top. So I will tell you, I had a friend of mine who she found out that she was getting proposed to before she knew she was being proposed to, because all these ads for wedding rings started showing up all over. Now a question for you, and I already know the answer to this question. If you start searching around online while you're looking to book a cruise, the only thing you see is ads from celebrity, correct? That's all you'll see is ads from celebrity or whoever you do. It's because they track you. They look what's going around and stuff like that. Every web browser has a private browsing mode. iPhones, iPads, Macs, Windows. On Chrome, you just hit File and you say New Private Browsing Window, and you've got a new private browsing window. On the iPhone, when I open Safari, and I click to these multiple windows, there's a little button down here that says Private. So I'm just clicking, what is that? Kylie Jenner. No, I was reading about...
Put it back up there,
just
though.
got caught.
No, I was reading about some magician. No!
Sure.
That's Kylie Jenner. Oh, she's not even there anymore. Oh, there we go. Kylie Jenner shows off tiny toned waist in white boxers. Okay.
Where did you see that part?
Okay, watch. When I open up Safari,
Okay,
the thing that has multiple windows in the bottom right-hand corner on an iPhone,
Yes.
you'll hit that, and you'll see a button that says Private.
Private.
Yeah.
And when you hit that, your web browser turns black.
Yes.
Private browsing mode.
That will not keep any of the cookies. So if you are searching for something for someone, a gift or a birthday gift or a vacation or anything like that, you turn on private browsing mode first. Some people like to live in private browsing mode, and there's no real problem with that. But understand that none of your saved passwords or any of that stuff is going to work in private browsing mode. So it's like it's an empty computer every time.
How do you
So-
get out of that?
So you just click it again and hit private, and then private goes off.
So by making it go white,
Gotcha.
it's activating.
By making it go white, it's activating the private, and then you'll see that the actual web browser is black around the corners. iPhones, let's get rid of that image.
Oh, yeah.
iPhones, iPads, when you have this little thing, I'll turn it sideways so you can see a little better. This little thing that shows two windows next to each other, if I click there, I can say private, and you'll notice that my screen goes from white to black, and that means it's in private browsing mode. The same thing works on Safari on a computer. You hit File, New Private Browsing Window. On Chrome, it's called a New Incognito window.
How do you do
Yeah.
it on Chrome?
If I do it there,
Uh-huh.
does it go on all my devices?
No, it is not an iCloud function. You need to do it individually on each device. Private browsing is not designed to be used all the time, because what private browsing does is it turns off all the cookies, it turns off all the cache. It's going to make your internet a little slower. But if you want to search something and you want no one to ever know you searched that, the way to do it is private browsing mode. So that's the way to do it. Now, to the big elephant in the room, which is the last question for the day. Now, I'm going to tell you that due to some funky scheduling thing that's happened, we're not going to be in here at 1 o'clock tomorrow, because they are premiering a new production show tomorrow night, I believe. So the theater's closed and they've had to juggle some things around. Tomorrow was designed to be the apps class. We're going to pick that up on the last 2 C days. We're going to have 3 classes in here over the last 2 C days. So you'll see that come up over the last 2 C days. We've got 3 different classes. But the last thing is the elephant in the room, and that is a question that this gentleman just asked. The gentleman right here just asked. He said, in the end of the day, who is going to win? Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, others. Here's the answer. The best thing to do is one of them is going to win.
Apple.
I will tell, well, I don't know necessarily if Apple's going to win. I'm going to show you something cool that I have in my bag. This is my favorite phone ever made. This is a super powerful phone. I'll put this in my bag just in case. It's a super powerful phone. I'm going to tell you how awesome this phone is. I actually just look at it and it opens up. I don't put in a code or anything. If I lock it,
Yeah.
when I look at it,
Facial recognition.
no, not
Retina.
really. Retina recognition.
Retina.
It's got retina recognition. When I take this phone and I plug it into a monitor, this phone turns into a full computer. A full computer with apps and everything and all that. It is made by Microsoft, and it was an absolute, complete, and total failure. Yeah. A lot of people years ago thought that BlackBerry would win. So, sorry Canadians.
So who's going to win?
So, if I knew who was going to win,
Let's go to Vegas.
well, I'll give you an example. Here's the simplest thing I can tell you is I can tell you who's in my stock portfolio right now personally. I think that's a fair one to let you know.
Apple.
So Apple's in my stock portfolio, but it's not one I trade with on a daily basis. It's kind of, I call it the Ronco rotisserie oven. You buy it and you forget it. You set it and forget it and come back later, and Apple just keeps growing. But in the short term, I really think that the company that's going to take over the wireless industry, and it has in the States, is T-Mobile's taken over a lot of the wireless industry and things like that. Here's what happens. Whenever you see a new technology come out, you will see that technology out, you will see them announce something, then what do you immediately see? It's gone. You're not seeing a lot of cool innovation in new technology because here's what you don't realize. Apple, Google, and Facebook are buying things before they even get released and being quiet with them. So here's the answer to your question as best as I can give you an answer to your question. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook. Actually, you know what? Let's get rid of the M word. They're dead. Let's replace it with someone else. What do you think I'm going to get rid of Microsoft and replace it with? Any guess? Yeah. Google, Amazon, Apple, and Facebook are the 3 big players in the tech industry. And you can almost include Netflix in there if you wanted to as well. Here's what's going to happen over the next few years. So one of the things that the current FCC is doing is they are taking the regulations off of businesses, and they're going to allow a lot of monopolies to form in the cell phone industry and in the cable industry and a lot of what's going on there because they think that's good for business. That's up to anybody's thing. But here's the thing. Over the next 2 or 3 years, if you try and access Netflix from your Comcast internet at home, it's going to be very difficult. If you try and access YouTube from your Comcast internet at home, it's going to be very difficult because Comcast wants to prioritize stuff made by Comcast. That was illegal under the last administration. So here's the thing. To answer your question, if it's very difficult for these big tech companies to succeed, what are these big tech companies going to need to do? They're going to need to build their own pipes, aren't they? They're going to need to build their own pipes, and they're going to need to beat the big boys at their own game. So I will tell you, Google owns no fewer than 15 companies that they've acquired in the last year that are all about distributing internet in cities wirelessly without having to run fiber, without having to run cable, without having to do anything. Google is, I'll tell you another thing. Have any of you been to Starbucks recently? I've been to Starbucks recently. You'll notice that the Wi-Fi in the Starbucks is called Google Starbucks. You've been at, not a Starbucks maybe here, but in the States, they're called Google Starbucks. Google is building out their fiber network in Starbuckses all over the country. Facebook is looking to build a cell phone network. Apple, the last thing Apple doesn't own. Apple builds your iPhone, sells your iPhone, supports your iPhone, but guess who they still have to rely on? AT&T. What you've got to realize is, I want to just give you some perspective right here that's going to blow your mind. Apple has enough cash sitting in the bank right now to buy all 4 American cell phone companies. Done. Cash. I'm not talking about what the company's worth. They have enough cash. Are they going to buy all 4? No. But would they likely buy a merged Sprint and T-Mobile and make their own cell phone company? How many of you bought an iPhone in the Apple Store in the last 2 years? You ever pop the SIM card out of your phone?
No.
Pop the SIM card out of your phone. Does the SIM card say T-Mobile, or is there an Apple on that SIM card?
Oh, sure, probably an Apple.
Apple, for the last 2 years, has been selling iPhones and iPads in their stores with their own SIM cards inside of them. And those are programmed for the carrier when you go ahead and you activate it. Apple's preparing to be a carrier. Personally, I think Apple's preparing to be a bank with Apple Pay and different things like that. So the answer is, who's going to win? I think your first bet's Apple, your second bet's Google, your third bet's Amazon, and your fourth bet is Facebook. That's the trifecta I would put it in. And I put it right there. That's the trifecta. Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook. Everything else, mainly irrelevant. They're going to build the pipes for the next generation of networks, and you're not going to have to worry about roaming, because it's just going to work all over.
We'll get rid of Comcast.
Oh, Comcrap? Oh, don't. We'll get into that a lot deeper later on, but here's the simple answer. Comcast now has on your home internet, they have caps. I don't know if you know this. They have caps on how much data you can use on your home internet. And Netflix is starting to put out 4K content. When you stream Netflix 4K content, that counts against your cap. When you stream 4K content from Comcast, that doesn't count against your cap. Oh, who's sending me? I don't want to say something. So that doesn't count against your cap. So the idea is things are going to get really rough over the next few years. But these companies, you'll see these companies come up. I can give you the names of 50 companies. Ytricity, Y-Motion, that make all of these crazy things that they come, and guess what? They disappear. And I know the people that work for some of these companies, and their LinkedIn goes from president at Ytricity to VP at Apple or VP at Google. And that's what's going on right now. So these companies are sitting and waiting for all these other cell phone companies, for all these other companies to go crazy, and they are going to destroy everyone.
Can I ask you one more question?
One more question, go ahead.
Take you back to,
Yep.
Wi-Fi
Yep.
calling.
Yep.
If you go to Google Hangouts.
Yep.
And you get your phone number.
Yep.
That's the phone number you use.
That's the phone number you use. I'll take that offline with you. So this has been this is, again, off the record, stuff like that. It's called Tech Tea Time. We're not going to do this one again this cruise. But coming up this cruise, we do have nothing tonight. But tomorrow we've got the Mac class at 10:30. We've got the first of our Google Photos for the VIP. And during the port days, every evening we have something. We have a class on Amazon called ExploringTheAmazon.com. We're going to look at YouTube and Netflix. There's one that I'm forgetting. And then we're going to look at, what do you think?
You've already addressed Apple TV.
Apple TV we've already done, but you can come by the office and we'll give you a little thing on Apple TV. That's it for today. Bye!